Hello, everybody. This is the webinar about the role of a project manager. And I hope you can hear me. Yeah, I think we're live now. So I'll try to explain my point of view, like about the project management role and project management in general. And then I expect your questions, because the idea is going to be quite straightforward. So I expect your questions. You can ask them on the YouTube chat forum. So the traditional understanding of the project manager is a person who's kind of a leader of in a team, and it's traditionally it's a role. It's a person who is considered to be the main guy of a team, who motivates everybody, who encourages everybody to work harder, who pushes things forward, who goes around the office trying to control things, trying to stay on top of things. And this is the project manager. This is how we traditionally see a project manager, or a technical lead, not really technical lead, but the team lead, or sometimes scrum master. Sometimes you can call I don't know, the big boss, the big manager, the person who's responsible for everything. That's a very traditional understanding of that. I wrote a blog post about that role, and now I'll try to explain it from a bit wider than the blog post, but you can read it there as well. So I believe that this role is not about, the project manager is not about pushing things forward. It's not about staying on top of things and being in charge and pushing people forward in order to get results from them. I think that project management is more about thinking, more about planning, more about organizing, and more about observing things instead of making changes. So I'll give a simple example. Let's say we have a restaurant and we sell pizzas, and now we're trying to create a mobile app which is going to be, which is going to help us to sell more pizzas online. So there are customers, they will order pizzas, and we're going to sell them online. It's a simple software project. So right now we have nothing, and in a few months we want to have the application which is on the Apple Store, and people use it and they order our pizzas, and we sell probably more products than we sell now. So this is what the project is. The project is a vector from point A to point B in the world around us. So right now we have something where we have the reality in the position A, and then we're going to have the same, different reality in the point B in some amount of time. We're going to spend some money. We're going to spend some efforts. We're going to involve some labor. We're going to resolve some problems, risks, whatever. So we'll do some. We will move this reality from A to B. And this is what it's called. This is what a project is. This is, I would say, the definition of a project. It's a vector from point A to point B. The second thing which I want to explain is stakeholder. So the stakeholder is somebody who's going to be affected by the project. So when we're going to move from A to B, we're going to affect somebody. For example, we're going to affect our customers. So they will be able to buy pizzas using the mobile app. So they will probably be happy when the project is finished. We're going to affect programmers. So there's people who we're going to hire. They will make some money, and they will probably grow as programmers. They will probably get some satisfaction by creating the app. This is the second group of stakeholders. We're going to affect our chef who is cooking pizzas now, and tomorrow we're going to have more orders, and that person will have to cook more pizzas. So there's going to be more work for that person. I don't know if it's going to affect him positively or negatively, but it's going to affect him as well. There are also other pizza stores in the town and in the same street probably. So by the time we launch our application, that pizza stores will not going to be happy. So they will probably try to stop the project. They will probably try to prevent us from succeeding the project. So they are kind of, they're competitors. And there are many other stakeholders in any project. And they could be, like in our example, they can be positive and they can be negative. So positive stakeholders are people or organizations who really want to see our project completed and completed, just completed. And negative stakeholders, they don't want the project to be completed. They want the project to stop as soon as possible. And I'm not saying that they are, they're bad people and good people, bad organizations or good organizations. It's just the situation, it's just the environment around the project. So no matter what you do, no matter how, interesting and great is your project, no matter how bright are the goals of the project, no matter what problems you solve, you're still going to have negative stakeholders. You're going to have positive, you're going to have negative. So there will be, forces trying to stop your project and trying to help you. So these are the stakeholders. The second thing which I want to say. And there's project management. The project management is the discipline which I believe it's a discipline which contains a lot of instruments, a lot of tools which help us to predict what's going to happen in the future. So by using all the project management tools and all the instruments we have in the world, we can put these stakeholders together. We can put the resources we have, money, time, well, basically money and time, well, people, money and time. We can put these things together and put the stakeholders on top of that with their needs and objectives. And using the project management tools, we can more or less accurately predict what's going to happen. Are we going to finish the project? Are we going to complete it in time? Are we going to take what are the chances to complete it in time, etc., etc. So using all the possible instruments, we can predict the future. Without project management, we still can develop this mobile app. We still can complete that, but it's going to be more like, we're going to be guessing about the future. We're not going to know what's going to happen. And if we're lucky enough, if we are self-organized and we will be able to self-coordinate ourselves, and all our negative stakeholders will somehow forget about us, and they will not interfere, and they will not try to stop us, then probably we will complete successfully. But in most cases, it's not going to happen. That's why we need project management. We need to know what is the future, and looking at this information, looking at this, data the project management will provide us, we will be able to correct ourselves and then prevent mistakes from happening. So project management is the instrument of predicting the future for us, helping us to make certain decisions faster before it's too late. And now the question is, who is the project manager? So the project manager is the person who, as far as I understand it, is the person who is supposed to put all these things together, stakeholders, resources, everything, and let them go forward. Let them spend the time, spend their money, spend their do the work they want to do. And the project manager is supposed to look at the situation, observe it, collect the information it's possible to collect using project management tools, and deliver that information to stakeholders, to the most interested stakeholders. In most cases, there are positive stakeholders who will be interested to work with the project manager, and in most cases, it's going to be the project sponsor. So the project sponsor is the person who is paying for the project. In our case, it's the restaurant who's ordering this mobile app, who wants this project to succeed. And the owner of the restaurant will hire a project manager and will ask that person to look at what's going on, to look at the programmers, to take into account these negative stakeholders, to take into account all the technical risks, organizational risks, political risks, whatever, all possible risks around, and estimate the future, estimate the success rate of all this, and deliver this information to me. So if I'm the owner of the restaurant, I want the project manager to tell me, preferably every morning or whatever, to inform me about what's going on, what's going to be the future, and how soon this project will be completed, and what is the chance of it to be successful for me. So the success is very subjective thing, as you understand already, because for me, success for me means a failure for for negative stakeholders. So if my mobile app is successful, it means that it's really a failure for the next restaurant next door to me, because for them, they're probably going to lose customers because I will get more customers. So my success means their failure. And it's kind of the same for many other different stakeholders. It's always worked like that. So we can't say that the project is a success for everybody. The project is, we need to look at different stakeholders and always understand that for different parties, it's different success and failure rates. They mean different things. So the project manager should observe things and deliver that information to the stakeholder, to the main stakeholder, to probably the project sponsor. Deliver the information about the scope, about the cost, about quality, about risks, about cost, quality, risks, time, and scope. So these are basically 5 things which the project sponsor need to know. So this is what the project manager is paid for. And it's not the job of a manager, of a project manager, I think so. It's not the job of a project manager to push programmers or designers or anybody in the project to push forward. The project manager has to look at the project manager has to give these participants of a project, all the stakeholders, technical people, give them the ability to move forward by themselves. They are, well, we'll discuss it a bit later, but they will be by definition, by default, motivated enough to deliver what they're paid for. So they will be, they're supposed to be motivated enough to complete the project and make sure it's succeeded, it's successful for them. So for a programmer in the project, success should mean the project is finished. For a designer, the success should also mean that the project is completed and completed with the good result. I mean, the mobile app works. So the objectives, the goals of key stakeholders, including the sponsor, including the developer, programmer, including designer, including the technical people, I don't know, DevOps people, their objectives have to be aligned, and they all need to be interested in the same thing. So I'm getting to the question, which is not actually covered in the blog post, but it's kind of logical question. So if the project manager only observes things and just looks at their reality and delivers the information back to the sponsor, then most probably the team, let's say the team will not perform, and the team will not be not be successful, or they will be lazy for some reasons or whatever. So the project manager will just come back to the sponsor and say that we're going to complete it in 2 years because of the reality, because the situation and the team is not good, so we're just too lazy. So just accept the fact that the project will be completed in 2 years. In this case, it may happen because everything I said before looks like the project manager just observes things and looks in the reality and calculates all these parameters of the project and say that, okay, we know the scope, this is the amount of work we're going to do. We know the quality we expect. It has to be high quality application with all these quality parameters. And we know the cost. We know that we have, $20,000. And then I put it all together, and I managed to find only one programmer, and he's busy doing something else. So he's gonna spend like 2 hours a week for our project. So it's gonna take about 2 years. This is the information for you, and I give you the reality. This is what I observed. So in this case, the question would be, what can we do what can we do with this situation? Because it's not a normal situation. It's not what the project sponsor wants. So observing is just one side of a coin for a project manager. The second thing which a project manager is supposed to do is to make sure that the conflicts between all the stakeholders are properly resolved. So when the situation happens, it means that we have stakeholders which are not which are not happy with this situation, and we need to find a way to resolve that problems, to make sure that their goals and their needs are that there are no conflicts between them. So in this case, if we don't have enough programmers, or we don't have enough time, we don't have enough we don't have enough motivation from programmers, then it means that something is wrong with these needs and objectives. They need to be resolved, and we need to find a way to reschedule probably the project. We need to find a way maybe to give them a different payment structure for the programmer. Maybe we need to find, we means the project manager. Maybe the project manager needs to find some tools or instruments for better planning of the project. Maybe the project manager needs to to rebuild the schedule and invite more people into the project. So something has to be done in order to make sure that all interests of all stakeholders are aligned together, so there are no conflicts. And in order to solve that, the project manager has to use instruments and tools which are project management instruments and tools, like planning, risk analysis, critical chain paths, or there are many instruments for working with the scope, working with schedule, working with money, with plans. So the project manager has to do all that in order to help stakeholders to get to align their interests, to get rid of conflicts. And what's important is that the project manager should not change their interests. The project manager should not come back to the team and start to push the team and say and tell programmers that I just talked to the sponsor of the project, and that person is not happy, or that company is not happy with this reality with you guys. So you just work here for 2 hours a week. It's not acceptable by the person who is paying for that. So you have to do something about it. You have to work more because we want that. So I'm gonna stay next to you. I'm gonna ask you to do overtimes. I'm gonna do something in order to enforce you to dedicate more time to the project. That will be completely wrong. The project manager should not do that. The project manager should not be a leader, because that's what a leader does. Traditionally, if we are, if we are, in the army, and there's a small unit, a few soldiers, and there's a leader who is basically pushing this unit forward, and the leader says we have to do it. We have to go and do something, and just follow me. Just follow my orders, and because I'm a leader, I'm leading you, and I'm not asking what your interests are. You just need to follow me because I'm your leader. In project management, it has to be different. In the project manager should not be a leader. It should not lead anybody forward. The project manager should understand the objectives of all stakeholders, and then find mechanisms and methods which will help these stakeholders to resolve conflicts between their interests. But I would say that the project manager always stays behind, while stakeholders like programmers, like sponsor of the project, like the Apple Store, like the designers, like technical people, all these stakeholders, they are primary figures in the project. And the PM, the project manager, stays behind them and helps them, not leads them, not goes forward and they all lead him. No, not this way. But the project manager is always behind, helping these people to resolve conflicts between their objectives, to give them tools and instruments, to give them some structure, to give them some rules, to help them build the rules, to help them build the plans according to which they will progress forward. So that's my main idea, that the leadership is something which ruins the project. So if a project manager is a good leader, it's really bad for the project. So if the PM has a lot of charisma, has a lot of personal influence on the people who are being managed by the PM, then it's really bad for the project, because that kind of guy or whatever that person is will only will spend less time and less effort on organizing work and thinking about objectives of these people, and will spend more time on trying to change their objectives, on trying to change their needs. So you wanted to spend more time with your family, you're the developer, you wanted to spend time, I don't know, more doing snowboarding, and now there's the project, so I'm gonna say, you know what, you need to spend less time on snowboarding because the project is so important. If I have a lot of charisma, if I have a lot of power over that guy who's trying to do snowboarding, then he will probably stop doing that and he will come to the project, he will work in the project. So I will change his objectives a little bit, his personal needs, his personal interests. But it's going to be only short term, and eventually they will get back. That person will get back. Will not be. That person will be, that situation will become less manageable. The situation will be less manageable, and people, all the stakeholders in the projects, they will not share honestly their real interests with the project manager, with the project, with each other. They will just be there for quite a short period of time under the influence of a charismatic leader. Eventually, quite soon, it will fall apart and the project will not be successful for none of them, because there will be lack of structure, lack of discipline, lack of understanding of real interests of these participants, of these stakeholders. So the real project manager resolve conflicts, never trying to change the needs and interests of negative and positive stakeholders. The project manager understands what it's about, measures the situation, collects the metrics, observes what's going on, and then puts all this information into some management system, into documents, delivers this information to interested parties, to interested stakeholders. And if there are conflicts, then the project manager gets back to the system, to the structure, to the formal foundation built there for managing this situation, and improves it. If our plans are not good enough, we fix it. If somebody is not motivated enough, we fix the plan of motivation of these programmers. But we always understand what's going on instead of changing the situation. So the project manager is not about changing things, it's about understanding how things are, how real life is, and putting things together and trying to resolve conflicts by giving them, by changing the project, not changing stakeholders around it. That's what I think. That's what I wanted to say. So now I have some questions. Let me try to answer them. There's a question: which position do I prefer, the architect or a project manager? I think that I personally would say that I like the position of an architect. So I think that project manager, the good project, that's actually a good question. I think that a good project manager is a person who is spending most of the time, 90% of time, working with documents, working with numbers, working with thinking about structure and doing the work which is quite routine. So it's not really as creative, probably, as I just explained before, because it's a lot of information coming in, a lot of data coming into the project manager, and the project manager has to process that and make sure that nothing is missed. So it's quite routine work. The work of an architect is way more creative, because the architect works with ideas, works with the source code, it creates stuff. The project manager is the person who is always behind. So the good project manager is not the person who is visible. So a good project manager is a really professional project manager, is the person who you may not even know, working for months in the project. So if the project manager stands in the middle of the office and talking to everybody every day, it's really a bad project manager. It's an amateur project manager who doesn't know what he or she is doing. A good project manager is invisible. Nobody knows what that person is doing. But things are changing. I mean, things are moving forward, and we just have a good structure. We just have a good foundation of documents, rules, processes. Everything is organized for us. We are moving forward. The project manager is just a he's just like somebody who's cleaning the office. We don't know who's cleaning our office. It's just clean. We just come back in the morning and the office is clean. We don't know who did that. We don't really care. The same for the project manager. We just come in, we open the management software, and we just see the tasks and the plans, and we know how much we're gonna get. We know how to get back our objectives. So if I, for example, want to go on vacation, then I know where to put that information. I don't want to talk to any project manager. I just know how to express my objectives, my needs, my problems, my concerns, and it will just happen. I put it somewhere, and the system will somehow process this information, and it will be easy for me to continue to stay in that project. The project manager should not be a bottleneck. It should be somebody behind us. What are the project management responsibilities? The next question. I think that the main responsibility is to inform everybody about the situation. This is the most important responsibility, to inform everybody about what's going on and when we're gonna finish. So this is the information which in most situations, in 99% of projects which fail, that is the reason of failure. People just don't know in time that we are in trouble. So that information, we always miss that information, and that's why we fail. So the project manager should inform everybody, well, maybe not everybody, but at least the person who is paying money, that the chances of failure is 55% or 57 or 60 or 65, and the rate is growing because this and that. If that information is delivered in time, that will be a perfect situation for that money person to do something, to change something, to say that I don't know, let's change something. It's not really important what will be changed, but that information, which is usually missing, is really vital and important and critical. So the responsibility, number one responsibility of a project management or project manager is to deliver the prediction to the interested stakeholder. That's what I think the responsibility is, number one. Yeah, there is a comment said Project Oracle. So that's kind of true, yeah. So that the project manager is a kind of person who predicts the future. That's why we can call him or her an oracle. That's right. Should project manager, the next question, should project manager deliver project information to owner in person, or just prepare some Jira views where the owner can get all the needed information? Well, I think that the good project manager definitely will find a way to make sure that the information is delivered automatically. So these in-person talks and discussions, that's really not productive. So it's way better for me. Let's say I'm an owner and I'm paying money. So I don't want to talk to the project manager every day or I don't know. I don't want that conversations. All I need is some kind of structured information, structured data in front of me every day, every morning. That will be enough. Because in this case, I can fund more projects. I can work in more companies, I can work with more ideas, and everywhere these project managers will just do their job and deliver me the information in some spreadsheets or whatever. All I need basically is to know this is the key information. I think for me, the full summary of a project can be put together in just a few numbers. It's what's going to be the total budget plus minus certain percentage. What's going to be the total duration plus minus certain percentage? What's going to be the duration, the cost, and that's it. So basically two numbers. So what's going to be the duration and what's going to be the cost? For these two numbers, I need to know the accuracy. So I need to know how accurate these numbers are. So if the project manager brings me the data and says we're going to finish in 3 months plus 2 months minus 2 weeks. So my next question will be, how did you get that numbers? I mean, how did you get this plus 2 months minus 2 weeks? So where did you get it from? And there has to be a risk analysis. So if the risk analysis is there attached to these numbers, and the risk analysis says that we have 75 risks, 5 of them are top risks, the primary risks, and the rest is residual, so the rest is not important. So these 5 risks are the most important, and because of them, we have such a big potential inaccuracy, potential potential extra time, which may stay in the schedule. So using this information, I will be able to look at these risks as an owner and say, how can I help? So maybe I can give more money to get rid of the risk number 3, and maybe I can, I can bring more experts to get rid of this risk number 4, something like that. So I will know that these are the troubles. So the good project manager collects these 2 numbers about the schedule and the cost plus the risk analysis. The next question, does it mean that the project manager shouldn't care of product development process and it's some other responsibility like an architect or a team lead? It's a good question. I think that the project manager should not know anything about what's going on technically in the project. So an ideal project manager doesn't really care about that. Doesn't really care about, are we actually developing the software, or we are building a house, or we are, we were organizing a trip to, I don't know, to the mountain. So the project manager, they're exactly the same instruments of project management, which are applicable to whatever project you do. You do software development, or you're building houses, you apply exactly the same techniques. You apply risk analysis, you apply scheduling, you apply budgeting. All these instruments are exactly the same. So a good project manager will never replace technical people by his or her own expertise. So if I'm a good developer, if I'm a good architect, most probably I will be a bad project manager. Not because I don't know how to manage, but because I will try to become an expert, a technical expert. So I will listen to these technical people, and I will try to add my own opinion to them. So I will try to make some technical decisions because I know what they're talking about. So if I ask them, for example, if I ask them how much that server will cost, and they will say, the architect will say, well, it's about $1,000 a month for a server. Well, if I know that the server costs $100 a month, I will say, hey, no, it's not really true. It's $100 a month. And the logical reaction from the architect will be, how the hell do you know? Who are you? Like, why your opinion counts here? I'm the architect, I'm making these decisions. If you don't trust me, then hire maybe another architect, fire me, or maybe find another expert who will validate my numbers. If you don't think that I'm providing the right information, then find 2 more people and compare their numbers, and then make a decision. But don't make a decision yourself. That's what the architect will tell me, and she will be right, because the project manager should not become a technical expert. That's really typical. That's a really typical mistake what happens in software development. So the project manager should just get the numbers from these people. If the numbers are not trustable, then we find somebody else and we compare numbers. But the project manager never becomes a stakeholder. There are enough stakeholders there. Well, the project manager also is a stakeholder, but the project manager has to try to stay away as much as possible from being an active stakeholder. It's really important to be kind of aside of a project, not inside. Kind of observe things from the outside. That's really more helpful than being inside and thinking about what's going on and trying to help. Don't try to help. If you do that, let them develop by themselves. Let them go forward and observe them from the outside and see where the conflicts are and resolve that conflict. But don't become one of them, because you will just introduce extra conflict there. That's what I think. Yeah, there's a question. You mean a facilitator, not a leader? That's kind of what I mean. Yeah, the project manager should be, that's probably a good word, a facilitator, but not a leader. A leadership, it's something else. It's not about project management. Project management is about numbers, calculating, drawing spreadsheets, putting numbers together, but not leading anyone anywhere. They should lead themselves. You may have a leader like an architect. The architect is kind of a leader. So the software architect is somebody who leads everybody forward, because he's a knowledgeable guy. He knows more than everybody, most probably. Everybody trusts that person, and he makes technical decisions. He's kind of one of the key stakeholders, the architect. That's a leadership, definitely technical leadership. A project management is not about leadership at all. Unless we want to build the army unit, and we want to complete our mission in just 2-3 days, or maybe 2-3 hours. In that case, yes, we just throw away all the project management instruments and tools. We just forget about all this budgeting, planning, building spreadsheets and drawing risk lists and making risk analysis. We just forget about these things forever, and we just focus on forcing people to do what I say, to just follow me because I say so. It may happen. This is called micromanagement. And it may happen sometimes. You may do that if your server is down and there are thousands of customers waiting. Then yes, you just grab the wheel and you start to control things. But it shouldn't happen if you're a good project manager, and you shouldn't plan for that. It's a situation. It's a disaster management. It's not project management. And in this case, probably maybe the architect should do that, but not a project manager. So not leader, not leadership. Next question, shouldn't project manager be the owner's employee? Well, I think most probably yes. It's probably good to maybe yes, maybe no. It doesn't really matter. So it doesn't matter who's paying that person. Maybe it's a question of trust. I think you're asking that because the real question is, can we trust the project manager and who that person should report to? So yes, probably that person should stay as close as possible to the main stakeholder with money, because who's paying wants to know the truth. So that would be strange if I'm, for example, funding the project, I'm giving money, and the project manager actually is not my employee. It's kind of some contractor, and I'm that could be a question of trust. Could be. Shouldn't be, but could be. So I would say that the project manager should stay as close as possible to the money person. Next question, who should be charismatic in the team? Is any personal characteristics in project management at all? Well, I think it's a good question again. I think the project management is completely aside from personal characteristics. So the good project manager is like a good accountant. No emotions, no feelings, no leadership, just a person sitting in the office. Nobody sees that guy. He's just managing, and we don't care who is this person. The project just works. That will be the ideal project manager. The charismatic, like I said, I think the architect is the most charismatic person, because that person has to be charismatic because it's because of the technical. We should trust the architect in order to be interested to stay in the project. If I don't respect the architect technically, I'm not going to work there because it's no fun for me. If I see that the architect is not knowledgeable enough, is not strong enough, is not willing to take risks, is not willing to take responsibility, then it's going to be boring for me to work in such a team, because I will feel that I know more than that person. I'm more professional. So it's not going to be fun to work in a team where I don't respect the architect. So the architect is the main person who I want to work with. When I join the team, my main question is, who's the main technical guy here? And if the answer is we don't know, we're all together, that's kind of, the team sucks and I don't want to join it. So if I join the team and everybody says like, that's the guy, this is the person who created that system, he's the father of this system, he knows everything, we love to work with him, you should meet him first. That's a good team. That's kind of a good sign for me that the team is actually, has a leadership, technical leadership. But if everybody points the finger and says, he's the project manager, look at this guy, he's the project manager, he tells us what to do, he organizes, morning stand-ups, he organizes all the meetings, he tells us what tasks we're going to do today and tomorrow, and then I understand that the team is in trouble. Because instead of the technical leadership, the team has the management leadership, which means that it's a micromanagement situation. The team has to be, has to be managed by rules, not by people. The next question. Let me find it. Yeah, the same question. Who should be the leader? I just answered the architect. Next question, you said that work of a project manager is quite routine. Is it possible to automate it? That's a good question. The answer is yes, it's possible. And yes, it is definitely possible. There are a lot of software for that. And we can even go further, and we're trying to do it right now. So it's kind of self-promotion, but I'm working on a product which will be on the market in 2 months, and it will solve exactly the problem we're talking right now about. So just stay tuned and stay in touch, and I'll inform you in about 2 months about it. It's going to be quite interesting product, which will exactly solve this exactly problem I'm explaining right now. So it will help the project manager to become less leader and more a management person. Next question. In my company, project managers really struggle to estimate the length of a project. What is your #1 tip for a PM to accurately estimate delivery time, if it's possible? Well, that's a big question, because I will definitely recommend these people to read PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge. It's like a fundamental book. Not even a book, it's a manual or guidance for project managers, which lists all known and effective instruments of planning, of scheduling, of estimating time, and they should just use the most important of them. But I think if you want one answer, if you want a quick answer, if you don't want to go through all these books and read it all together, I think that the easiest way is to ask programmers, to ask these technical people who deliver, who work on that. They know better, so they will give you some numbers. Somehow find, Google for it, and you will find like some simple instruments for estimating. So they will give you some numbers. You put these all numbers together, you put them into some spreadsheet, you calculate, and you will see, okay, according to their estimate, it's going to be 4 months. And this is #1. This is step #1. You put this aside, and then you do risk analysis. I think that risk analysis is way more important than everything else in the project. Risk analysis is simple. You just create a spreadsheet and ask everybody, all your programmers, all the stakeholders, what they think may go wrong in the project. And you put this, risks into the spreadsheet one by one. You just number them. And everything which may go wrong. We may lose the server, we may lose the key programmer, we may lose the technology may not work, we may lose funding, we may the competitors may come on the market before we get there. We may I don't know. There will be a lot of risks. Just talk to your programmers. Just talk to to people around. You will see that you will easily build a spreadsheet of, I don't know, 50 risks. Maybe not 50. You will not do it in an hour, but if you work for a day, you will get a spreadsheet with 50 lines, and then you prioritize them. You just put, you sort the spreadsheet of which risk is the most important, which one is at the bottom, and then you look at the top risks, and then you put some numbers on them. You estimate them. You say, if that happens, how much time we're gonna spend? If we lose the server, how much time it will take us to get back and get a new server? If we lose this key programmer or these few people, the architect is gone. So how much time and money we will spend to get a new person? So you put this, you basically, it's called, you quantify your risks. So you put numbers on them, and then you summarize them all, just in a primitive way. Okay, again, you can Google for risk analysis and do it the right way, but in a primitive way, you just summarize them and see what is your total risk, weight of your project. So what's the potential risk you may have? Like how much time and how much money you will have to spend if all of this risk of all of these things will happen. And so this is called quantify, and you also qualify your risks. So for each risk, you put formally you put probability and impact. So you put two numbers: the probability of what's the probability of the risk to happen, and then the number, what's the impact? So how seriously it will affect us, and you multiply them. So you get some numbers for each risk. You multiply them all together. So in the end, you will get one number which will say that your risk, what is called? I don't remember. So you will get some number which will say 2 months. So this is approximately what you should add to your schedule, which was 4 months according to the analysis of your programmers. But your risk analysis will give you another 2 months because all these numbers multiplied, and summarized. So you will get another 2 months. So that's going to be a real, more or less accurate estimate. 6 months for your programmers give you, and then 2 months you get from risk analysis. So that's what I think will be really helpful to estimate what's going on. Again, I really seriously recommend to read about risk analysis in project management. And another question: should the project manager be an expert in project domain area? Like I said, no. It's really bad to have a project manager who knows what we're actually working with. Yeah, and the same question: do you think a project manager of a software project can be non-technical and still be good project manager? I think that the project manager should be non-technical, and that will make sure that person is a good project manager. So the best project manager is like that person who doesn't know anything about this, programming, coding, servers, whatever, and doesn't want to know that. That person, he or she, wants just to stay focused on plans, on schedule, on risk analysis. And look at this, this risk list, for example. When you build the risk list, a good project manager will say, I don't know what risks are. I'm going to go and talk to my team. I'm going to ask them, what do you guys think may go wrong? Give me that information. And the information will get back to the project manager, and he will put this data into the risk and the risk register or risk list. But the bad project manager will say, "Hey, I know the risks. Let me write it down. I don't need to talk to programmers. I know what may go wrong. The server, the version of Java will not be compatible. We may lose that kind of library. We may all that stuff. If the project manager is technical, technically savvy. So the good project manager doesn't know that. He just always collects data from the team. Another question. I know some girls switch from QA or whatever to PM. I'm a bit skeptical of their results. What do you think about such transitions? Well, I think it's a good transition. I think that these girls who are not really programmers, who they switch from quality like QA or whatever, just some other area of of the company, or maybe they just come from outside. They never write any line of code. They don't want to. They just want to be project manager. That's the best candidate for project managers if they learn about project management as a discipline. So, but usually it's not happening. Usually they just come in and say, I'm a project manager because I am a very communicative person. I can talk to any programmer. I'm not shy. I have no problem talking to different people at the same time. I'm really effective and I'm full of energy. This is not what project management is about. So these people, these girls or boys, whatever, they just come in. They need to understand that their job is not to be in front of everybody, but to be behind everybody. They shouldn't stay in the middle of the office giving commands and listening to everybody and making meetings. This is not what project manager is doing. The project manager is sitting behind us and looking at what's happening, collecting information, and helping us by bringing back some rules, structures, some software, to help us to develop without the management, without this project manager, but with the management. So these people are good candidates, but in most cases they don't learn. They just think that it's a different discipline, that project management is about leadership, and they think they're good leaders, and they are, but it's not good for us, for projects. Another question, I think some companies expect the project manager to lead and to push everyone into meeting the deadlines no matter what. In the real world, if you were a project manager and you were seen not to be leading, you could be viewed as a poor PM. Yes, definitely. Companies and sponsors, they expect project managers first of all, they expect project managers, like I said, to give information back and to resolve conflicts between stakeholders. But project managers don't do that, and that's why the sponsors, they don't know what to change, because there are not so many good project managers on the market. They're just these people who are coming from QA or whatever, thinking that they're good leaders, and that's why they're good project managers. So the sponsors, they just don't have any choice but to tell these people, like, do whatever you want, but make sure that the project is done in 3 months. And that person doesn't know how to do that in the right way. So that's why the person comes back to the office and start yelling around and start, giving orders and becomes a micromanager. That's what happens. And it's okay for both, for the sponsor and for the manager, for this micromanager and for the team, because they don't know how else it could be. That's the only reality they know. So they never seen anything else. So that's why they kind of, that's, it's kind of typical. It's like a best practice right now. So the best practice is like, we need a good leadership in the team. That's what's going to make the project successful. We don't need your bloody plans and all these rules and this risk analysis. No, we don't care. We need agile and a good leadership, and everything will just happen. Because, and this is considered best practice, even though we have this PMBOK for 16 years in the market, I don't know, like 12 years. It's quite for a long time. So all of these instruments and techniques and this PMBOK, people don't use it. They just, I met one person in the conference 2 weeks ago, and she said, I'm a project manager. I'm a project manager. I'm really good project manager. My sponsor is really glad that I'm, they're really happy with me. And I said, like, do you do risk analysis? I just asked, I was really interested. Like, you do risk analysis most probably. And she was like, what is this? And I said, like, yeah, but you don't know. Maybe I don't know. Do you have communicate staffing management plan in your project? Do people have that kind of document in front of them? Do you know how you manage their motivation? And she's like, no, we don't use that. I'm there. They talk to me when they want to know what's going on. I'm in front of them. So she's not a project manager at all. She's just a monkey in the office who can scream louder than everybody else, who can handle the stress better. And that's all. That's the qualities she's got. And she was not a project manager. I don't blame her because she never heard about PMBOK. That was my question number 3. Like I said, really, did you know that PMBOK exists? And she's like, what is that? I'm not really sure. So she doesn't even know that kind of fundamental piece of knowledge exists in this world. So, and I don't blame her again because the customer is happy. Because the sponsor is not asking her to be a project manager. The sponsor is asking her to be a leader, which means being nobody. Just nobody, being in charge, staying on top of these poor programmers who are being micromanaged. This is not what project management is about. The next question, we have 5 more minutes. When you do project management, what is your position on meetings? As I know, you're not a believer in meetings and like to do things in ticket systems. Yeah, definitely. So meetings is the instrument of a leader. It's not an instrument of a project manager. So a project manager does not need meetings. There's no point on meetings because everything is in plans. Everything is in ticketing system. Is in risk list. So it's all there because for a project manager to organize a meeting to manage people, it's kind of weird because it's a waste of time. It's really difficult to, especially for programmers. It's really not productive to manage these introverts who are not really good in person-to-person communications. Usually, we prefer to work with source code, not with somebody talking in front of me, especially if that person is kind of louder than me and more aggressive. It's difficult. So I think that meetings for project management is completely like waste of time, and as well for the architect, for technical. I'm also against technical meetings. But for technical meetings, I kind of can understand sometimes maybe if the problem we're solving is really difficult and needs some creativity, which happens really in rare situations, that maybe I can understand that meetings may help. But even though in that situations, I prefer to work with documents. And I still think, I can repeat it, that the good architect knows how to work with documents. So the good architect is not the person who knows how to convince somebody in a verbal communication, who knows how to explain something in a verbal communication. This is not what the architect is about. It's about a public speaker, like I'm doing right now. So I'm explaining, I'm doing it verbally, I'm doing video webinars. I'm not acting like now I'm like an architect. An architect knows how to work with the document. knows how to explain it to many people, not to just people listening to me right now. So, and the same for project managers. So the project manager needs to work with documents, not people. Again, it's not leadership. The leader definitely should need, the leader needs meeting, because the leader convinces people. The leader motivates them. The leader says, follow me, because we do it right now. Like in the army, that would be strange if the commander would just, write documents and people are like expecting some leadership, because there's an enemy in front of us. There's, fire up there. So we need somebody to tell us like, hey guys, stay together, let's run. So we don't want documents at that point. We need leadership. We need somebody to say, I'm going to die first, just follow me. And then everybody will be like, will give courage to everybody. But the project management is not about courage. The next question, just two more questions. How to learn to become a good PM? From what to start? I would seriously recommend PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge. Google it. And it's quite difficult book, so don't try to to read it first, because it's really boring and difficult. So you will need really a lot of motivation to read it. So I would recommend you can go on my blog and find the article called My Favorite Books. And the book number 2 is the one I highly recommend to read. This is the best book about project management I've ever seen in my life. It's really the best. It's about PMBOK. It kind of covers the same subject, but it will completely change your mindset about what the management is. So the book will say exactly what I'm saying right now. It will on way more pages, but they will be the same message. That the project management is not about leadership. It's not about yelling in the office. It's about writing documents, thinking, and planning. Just read the book. That's the best I've seen. And one more, please, if possible. Next question, please, if possible, give some information about team leader as well. Well, the team leader, I'm not really an expert here, so I can't say I know how to be a good leader. That's completely, it's kind of out of scope of this discussion. And I don't think we need these leaders in the industry now. I think we need too many of them. So I would say we need a manual which would be called How Not to Be a Good Leader, How Not to Be a Leader, How to Stop Being a Leader and Becoming a Project Manager. So I think we are having too many leaders, and that's why we're having so many failures in projects. Because instead of thinking, we're leading. And that's kind of a problem. One more, you're saying that technical involvement of project management is not required, but you have classic career, being developer first, then architect. The question, did you experience any difficulties in transition from developer architect to PM? In this knowledge, something PM doesn't need, it doesn't help. Well, it's I don't think it's a good idea to do the transition from the architect to PM. I think that the architect is a way more creative position and way more interesting, and less routine and less boring. So I would not recommend that transition. So if you are a technical, so stay technical, be the developer, be the architect, and go in that direction. The architect, the VP of engineering, the CTO, maybe the founder of your own company, the technical founder. So that career is way more interesting than the career of a project manager, because I think that in project management, there should be more and more tools, more and more software instead of people involvement. So we need more computers there and less people. While in technical career, we need more and more talented people. We need better architects. And so I would not recommend to transfer from one career path to another one, to project management. The last question, we're finishing. So what kind of information should project manager bring to a team from owners, so in backward direction? The project manager, it's a good question. So the project manager should make sure that the flow of information is seamless. So all stakeholders can exchange information in different directions. So the owner of the project, the founder, the money person, should be able to deliver as much information as possible to the team. and the team should be able to get back as much information as possible as well. And to organize this channel, this flow of information, flow of data, this is the responsibility of a project manager. So I would say that as much information as possible, but in a structured way. So forget meetings. We shouldn't organize meetings where people just exchange information. We need to structure that. We need to structure the flow of information, that the sponsor of the project delivers the information to the team in a structured way, so that everybody can see it later, can understand what was the. So there should be structure, tickets, or some documents, diagrams, whatever. But there should be no barriers between the team and the sponsor. They need to stay together and work together and understand together and know objectives and problems and risks and concerns of each other. Ideally, this is the final note. So maybe that will sound really strange, but this is the final note. So in an ideal team, in an ideal management, in an ideal situation where the project manager is really good and the team is really, being properly managed, the risk list, the list of all problems which may happen, should be visible to everybody. This is unachievable. I tried that in many teams. I tried it in a number of companies, and always the reaction is no, 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 no. Don't show that risk list to the sponsor. Don't show it to the team. Just don't show it to anybody. Just hide it. So try it in your team. If you build that risk list, and you will see, is it possible in your situation to disclose that to the sponsor, to the programmer, to the manager, to the HR, to, I don't know, to DevOps, to designers, to programmers, to everybody, so that everybody will see that if the server falls down, or if we lose the architect, if that person who's sitting at this desk is going to find another job, then this is the amount of trouble we're going to have in our project. And that information is public. If you can't do that, if the project manager can achieve that kind of transparency, that's a perfectly managed project. I think this is like the final step. If we achieve that, then everything is under control and we are really moving forward together. So that's it. Thank you very much. It's an hour. It's already an hour. So see you next month, the first Wednesday of a month, 11 in the morning Pacific time. Thanks for watching. You can read my article on the blog. It's again about the same. You can find it by Who is a Project Manager? That's the title. Thanks again. See you next time. Bye-bye.